Aysanabee?
Aysanabee.
Aysanabee. That was your grandfather's last name, right? Or it still is.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I wasn't sure. So, and his first name is Watin.
yeah,
Okay. And that's the name of your album that you released November 4th.
yeah.
Okay, cool. And that album is doing really, really well.
Yeah. It's still yeah, it's doing really well. Honestly, like I owe a lot of that to the team. Like I signing with Ishkōdé and their whole team, and they're pushing it. Like, because yeah, when I was making it, I didn't think many people would hear it, to be honest.
I read some stuff and I love the fact that it's based on conversations with your grandfather.
Hmm.
And I'm sure they were very difficult conversations.
Yeah. Because I think we were both in a space where it kind of worked, though, to be honest. Like, because I had moved into long-term care before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and then
Mm.
there's all these outbreaks at different long-term care homes. So that kind of is what prompted me to kind of call them every day, is because I didn't know if there would be an outbreak there, and a lot of people like were passing away. They're getting COVID, and
Okay.
and so that what kind of sparked this conversation of me just calling them, and then yeah, we you can only ask, like, how was your day, and you know how's the weather, for so many times before you just end up start talking about different things. And so yeah, we started talking about Sandy Lake First Nation, and like I was only on Sandy Lake First Nation till I was 3, and then my grandfather actually came and visited me and then brought me back to live with him in La Pas, Manitoba.
Oh,
um so he was only in Sandy Lake until he was I believe 8 years old, and then he was taken and put into the schools. And so we talked about what he remembered about Sandy Lake, and his family up there, and what he remembered about kind of like growing up and like trapping, and kind of growing up in the community up there. And yeah, and then we started talking about like his experience in residential school, and these are things that we didn't talk about, that you know conversations that happened probably because of the pandemic, to be honest.
he remembers everything clearly because you said he was 8 years old, right?
So yeah, he had a few memories. Like, obviously it's really hard. Like, even I have troubles remembering
Yeah,
what
I
was
know.
8 years old. But yeah, he had memories of like his grandma canoeing across a lake with a bunch of wood, and like the
Cool.
canoe tipping and her having to like swim across, and just being this like really tough lady. And him living with her for a bit, and then him going on the trap line with his brothers and his dad and his uncles, and living in these little kind of makeshift cabins they make, and they kind of go out for sometimes a couple weeks, sometimes a month or a bit, and they just kind of go out there and trap, and then they kind of like bring stuff back. And so yeah, like it was just, yeah, it was really cool kind of getting to know more about our family and our roots. And so yeah, like he had some pretty good recollections of that time, which I was kind of surprised as well, because he's turning 81 this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah.
81. Yeah, what people don't realize in Canadian history that these things did not happen all that long ago, and not nobody was talking about it for a very long time.
Hmm.
Uh, there's most of the songs I don't know, all of your songs on the album Watson kind of, well, you have your grandfather's voice speaking, his actual voice. I mean, that's like a time capsule, like.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the idea as well. Like, I've always kind of struggled reconnecting with my roots, like since not being on the res since I was 3, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and my grandfather was like, at the time, kind of like my last kind of direct link to that culture and that heritage and those roots, and to kind of, you know, for him to be in long-term care, and at the time, like, his health wasn't so good, so like his memory suddenly wasn't as good, and he was forgetting things. And so it was like, yeah, that was kind of also a push to kind of start. I was interviewing him for the first year and just trying to record our family story, and so I just every day we'd hop on a call and I'd start recording and like, and yeah, I was like, do you mind if I record these? He's like, yeah, of course. And we ended up just getting all this family history and all these stories, like especially for indigenous people too, because like a lot of histories aren't written down. It's always been kind of an oral culture for a lot of the clans and stuff. So yeah, being able to kind of just record a bit and capture something, and yeah, like you said, like a time capsule, something that kind of yeah, just a little.
I know that Buffy Sainte-Marie has written a lot, or she's contributed in a lot of school like programs for Indigenous history. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Yeah. I like I've watched a lot of her interviews. I wasn't too actually knowledgeable of like she's like helping build curriculums and stuff like that.
Yeah. She did a lot of, she put together a lot of research and added a lot of like courses and programs to schools about Indigenous actual culture and history. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
I read her biography, the latest one. It's really, really good if you're interested. It's really well written. And anyways, I'm off topic or on topic. I'm a tremendous fan of Buffy Sainte-Marie because I'm not Indigenous, but I grew up in Canada in the 70s as an immigrant child watching Sesame Street. And before I even spoke English, I would see her on Sesame Street, and I was so like taken by her, I just found her so fascinating, and she had dark hair like me, and she didn't look like the other people, and she was, I don't know, she's got such a wonderful spirit. I'm like a really, really big fan of hers. Yeah.
I know that's what I was kind of like, I was semi bummed out that she played her last tour and she's just,
She's grandfather's age. She'll be, I think, 81 this year.
Yeah. So I totally understand. I tell you what I was hoping, maybe one day we'd play together. But we'll see. We just have to, we'll have to bring the show to Hawaii and
I mean, no, I've never been to Hawaii and I would love to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where she lives. Yeah.
She does. She lives, I think, there, and she probably has a place in Canada too, but she made some really good money on royalties because she's written a lot of very, very good songs.
Yeah.
Good for her. Anyway, so speaking of like really, really good songs, so when I went to your bio on Instagram, it says making anthems for the soul. And I was like, oh, that's a bold statement. And then I did listen to the music and I'm like, okay, I get it now. So yeah.
Actually that was interesting too, because like I was in the JUNO's Master Class and we had all these mentors, and one of the social media people had looked at my bios in my social media, and it just said like OG Cree, producer, multi-instrumentalist, Aquarius, you know what I mean? Like, and the guy's just like, he's like, this is like a dating profile. This is he's like this, you have to write something there that would draw people in. Like what would you write in like a sentence that would make people be like, okay, that's yeah, let's see if that's true, So something that draws people in is what he advised me to do as a musician, as someone who's trying to like grow their audience reach and stuff. So yeah, I'd sat with it for a minute and I was like, yeah, you know what, like definitely be like, I think I love listening to music that kind of becomes a soundtrack to my life, and like I like listening to music that kind of really makes me feel something. I think I listen to a lot of sad music and it makes me happy too. I'm not sure how many people that
I know I've asked this question in many interviews. I'm like, I interviewed JJ Wild a little while back, and I was like, what's the album you put on when you want to cry, or when you just want to be alone and I don't know, have a drink or smoke or whatever and just be alone and cry or whatever. And she's like, "Oh, I've got so many." So like, do you have your go-to like your go-to albums for that or no?
Let's see if I want to try it. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you said you like sad songs, so or just are there any artists that like who are you drawn to more or less? Like who are you listening to mostly?
Like it changes a lot, but a lot of time, like I will listen to things to death. Like I will listen to it so much until I'm just like I'm not even sure if I like this anymore. And so lately I've been listening to I discovered this artist Mitski.
Yeah.
Th- like I guess she had made this. She was in school for music and made this album as part of like a school project, and then suddenly became a hit.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like I don't know. She has a song "Nobody," which I listen to a lot, just like walking around and stuff. I've been listening to a lot of Matt Corby again. I just really love like the textures of his voice, and how he's able to kind of take these tender moments and kind of make them kind of pretty soulful. And um always still plugging Charlotte Day Wilson. She's always still in my lineup of artists, and she's Canadian too. And so she has that album Alpha she just put out, and it's like so many good tracks on there. Yeah.
Is there a song that you've ever heard that you wish you had written?
If we're talking classics, you know, Jeff Buckley, Lover You Should Have Come Over. Like that's just such a beautiful song. Actually, you know what? The saddest song I've ever heard maybe it's About Today by The National.
Oh, I can't listen to the National right now. Just it's too much. Yeah. Me too. I have albums that I've had for many, many years that I cannot listen to anymore because I just can't. They're great, but I just can't. You know what I mean? They're too
Yeah,
sad. Um,
yeah, that's
actually, I don't know. Have you heard of the Cowboy Junkies?
Cowboy.
They're,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't listen to. I love them, but I can't listen to them anymore. They're just too sad.
yeah, yeah,
You know who told me about you a while back, actually, before I'd ever heard about you? Sky Wallace.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had asked her, who are you listening to and are there any new artists that you're excited about? And she named you. I was like, oh, okay. I've seen her. She's been to Montreal a few times and she's
Mhm.
such a great artist. I really, really love her a lot.
Yeah, yeah. We might be touring Italy together in May.
Oh,
Just
nice.
the two of us. I'm going there for like this acoustic guitar show. I played Mariposa with this Italian guy, Beppe, and I guess he produces this like acoustic music festival in Genoa.
Oh,
So like
cool.
I'm going there for 5 days for that festival, and then yeah, we're kind of me and Sky are kind of looking into like playing Southern Italy for like the last half of May.
Nice. Nice. I've never been to Italy.
Me neither.
Yeah, now that the pandemic's over, like the airports are just crammed with people wanting to get everywhere, all the bucket lists, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I know.
Watin came out in November, like it's a very new album.
Mhm.
And you worked on it during the pandemic.
Yeah, like I worked on it mostly like not last summer but the summer before. And like that's when I signed with Ishkōdé, and they were like, "What are you working on?" And I told them about this album. And yeah, you know what, they ended up signing me, and like
Like what did they just hear one track and they're like, okay, because before that you had been in other various bands, but you didn't really take your music career very seriously. You had
yeah,
other jobs, right?
yeah, there wasn't even any tracks, to be honest, to
Oh,
show. There
they
was
signed you, they're like, he's cute, we like him, let's go.
I think the only thing I had up was like Howling and Ocean Breath, which were just kind of their own songs that I kind of made as well during the pandemic, which had like nothing to do with the album. I did the International Indigenous Music Summit for them, so I think that might have been the kicker, is because like Apple sponsored it, so we had to do like these like mini documentaries on ourselves using these
Okay.
cameras. And so you tell them who you are in this documentary, and you do one performance piece at the end of it. So I think I think I played Ocean Breath, and yeah, and then so they asked me to project, and yeah, so they signed me before the album was done, which I don't think is normal. I think people mostly sign people who already have an album ready that they can use. So
Okay, but you have a voice. Like you I remember that I actually heard you on the radio and I was like, who is that? And then I saw that, you know, when you're driving and there's a name and it was like Aysanabee, and I'm like, oh, there's probably like something wrong with the with the yeah, who is that? I thought you were like, you know, and then I looked into it, and then as I said, Sky Wallace told me about you and stuff, and then I listened in. Well, CBC Radio loves you. CBC,
yeah.
you're in all their top 10 lists, like top 10 albums of 2022. And the album just came out in November, so like that was pretty great, right?
Yeah, CBC has been really great. They've I've been able to kind of sit on a few of their shows and talk to a bunch of their hosts and stuff, and um yeah, and I got so much love for CBC. Yeah, they've really been amplifying the record.
Nomad? Was it Nomad? They considered Nomad to be like one of their number one songs of the year.
Yeah, I think they put it at like number 7, which was pretty sweet. Like I think like it was on the same 10 as like with the weekend and stuff. So I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome. It was really really good company.
Well, also, I'm looking at my notes because I wrote notes. Because your lyrics are, speaking of nomads, since we're there, your lyrics are like, yes, they're based on conversations with your grandfather. However, they're like very heavy lyrics, and clearly, I guess they are anthems for the soul because you're really digging deep into some like very dark and personal and difficult issues, like the whole, I mean, residential schools and what happened to your people, and I mean, what is that, generational trauma, and you're you're the grandson of someone that went through something horrific that you didn't experience it, but it is in your blood technically, right? Like in your lyrics, it's in my blood, right? That's what you say.
Yeah, there's that, and I mean, just the real kind of still things that are connected to it, right? Not only is it just like intergenerational trauma and stuff, but it's like, the fact that they basically destroyed the indigenous family with these schools by like teaching these kids how to be kind of robots and not really.
To deny your nature and to deny your culture.
And I think that plus like, yeah, so a lot of the people that came out of those schools didn't know how to be a family, and then had family, and then like, my mother went through a lot of different things. Like she ran away, and like ended up kind of, yeah, running around with gangs and stuff. And so like, like I think there was like a lot more tangible things for sure that are still there, and a lot of it's just on top of just like destroying the family part of it. It's like that also leads to like a lot of other things, like, yeah, psychological stuff, trauma stuff, economic stuff, like.
In the song we were here, when you say, what if I can't reconcile? Like, are you speaking about yourself in a way? Like, I don't know, reconcile is a complicated word, and I'm not going to get super political with you. But you're directly connected to someone that went to a residential school. Of course, it's going to affect you. And I don't know what your grandfather went on with his life, and he had children, etc. But you're in a different place, so you're looking at it from a different place, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time I hear a lot of, I grew up in a lot of small northern towns where like a lot of the sentiment was kind of just like, oh, like can they just get over it already? You know what I mean? That sort of thing, right? And it's like, I think like for that, like even when I was making the record, there was just a lot of different things happening in the news at the time, like, like the children's bodies being found, and you know what I mean? And so it's like, Yeah, and there's a lot of things about truth and reconciliation and stuff, and I think, yeah, acknowledging it is really tough, and like that's really taxing on so many people, like indigenous and non-indigenous. Like it's a really hard thing to come face to face with, and
Yeah.
and so about like not being able to reconcile. Like it's about it's not about like, oh, like we faced the truth and now we're over it. Like it's we face the truth and that's it, and it's just a part of us now, and that's just something we just have to carry with us. Like that you don't get to like you don't get to just like brush it off. It's a part of
No,
the it's a part of
no.
who we are.
But the fact that you're here and you're still here and you're still telling the stories and you're honoring your family and your ancestors and you are writing these songs that are exploring these issues. I mean, that's that's pretty great in itself, no?
Yeah, no, I think
And there's this, sorry, there's a lot of indigenous music coming out lately and a lot of indigenous artists that are being more and more welcomed. I saw Beatrice Deer a while back. I saw her perform and she's really great. I don't know if you've met her.
yeah, we actually hung out on a Zoom for like 40 minutes because there was some sort of like virtual conference, and then they ended up, I'm not sure if they like forgot about us or something, but like
You just
everyone went into these breakout rooms, and then it was just like me and Beatrice, and like we were the artists, and like I think we was like we are supposed to be meeting mentors and networking and stuff. I was like, okay, well, we ended up just like hanging out talking, and
she's
I was over at Hills, and like I kept seeing like she was doing this coffee art thing for a while,
wow.
and like it would just we were both kind of struggling, like Hill had a coffee espresso machine, so I was trying to do the coffee art as well. So we ended up talking about like how hard it is because we try to make it, and then it was very much like something you would have to interpret.
I saw her a while back and she's really a super energetic and powerful performer. And she does throat singing too. And I was just like, I was so mesmerized by her. I really, really liked her a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, man.
So yeah, so when I was asking like who you're listening to, so you two you have an eclectic kind of taste. You listen to everything or
Yeah, no, there's so much to listen to. Honestly, I like to kind of just spread the palette as far and wide as possible. But yeah, right now, definitely on the top of my list is Mitski, yeah, Matt Corby. I've been listening to a lot of I like Florence and the Machine has a new album, Dance Fever, that just came out. Like
with
that
my
King song is just so good. Like, my God, the lyrics in that song are just so like she's just like how hard it like that's if I can write a song like that, like it's just like it's so poignant. It feels like you finished reading a book. Like that's how good the song is. But
we had to give in our we had to give in on our blog our top 5 albums and top 5 concerts of the year. And she was my top album and top concert. I got to see her in Montreal. She's kicked off the tour like we were one of her first stops. And thank God because she broke her ankle after. Well, she would be running, eh? She runs across.
I've seen her play once. Yeah.
She was running around and I looked and she was barefoot and I'm like, oh, she's gonna hurt herself. And then like a little while later, she had to cancel her tour because she broke her ankle. But anyways,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about Florence and the Machine. I've seen her twice, and her last album, it was my most listened to on Spotify kind of thing. I was obsessed with that album.
So good.
She's
Yeah.
so underrated, I find. I don't know. They don't get it. They don't just if you're not listening to Florence, you don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's great music. I really love Labyrinth too, actually.
Okay.
He produced the whole soundtrack to that TV show Euphoria.
Okay.
And that his one song went really big on TikTok for a minute there. It's like, you still don't know my name. Like it's he's really good. I really love like how cinematic and like yeah, how cinematic it is. He's able to just really he's a producer. It's more like contemporary kind of a lot of R&B hip hop sounds almost, but still a lot of soul singing, almost like throws in some like kind of jazz elements too, which is really interesting. I'm ashamed. Shamelessly, I really like Harry Styles too. Like the guy just makes really good music. you
Hey,
know, can't deny it.
you're a multi-instrumentalist, right? You play more than one instrument.
Yeah, I play guitar, saxophone, and piano. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like I'm like a master at any of them. I'm very much a noodler.
Yeah, but you're musical. Like you just it's part of it's one of your languages. You have the language, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I'm all ear trained. Like I don't know any theory or anything like that. So it's super funny. Like session musicians are just so cool like that though. You know, there was a time where like I did feel like insecure about it, like
Mm.
going into like a session with like five classically trained people and just kind of feeling like a caveman trying to like explain like so like this part of the song is kind of like bat 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 and it kind of has like this and like it was just but yeah no like everyone's been super chill about it.
Okay, but people like Jimi Hendrix didn't exactly like go to Juilliard or anything, and they were like they didn't, they were like innovators and stuff. I mean, Jimi Hendrix was the first guy that came to mind, but how many really great rock stars are classically trained? I said rock stars, but you know what I mean.
Yeah no that's true and I don't know.
Well, I'm currently reading the Eddie Van Halen biography, and his parents, like he had to take classical piano lessons for years. That's why he's so brilliant. But he couldn't read the notes, so he would just, I don't know if you know this or if you're an Eddie Van Halen fan. He couldn't read the notes, so he would just learn by ear. And he would go to all these classical music competitions and he would win because they thought he was interpreting the music his own way and they thought he was so brilliant, but he was playing things wrong because he couldn't read notes.
That's incredible.
I love Van Halen. Anyway, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite lyrics of yours in River, and it stuck with me and it resonated and it means so many things. In River, you say, we won't get what we give, so we learn to forgive. I think that kind of wraps everything up in your songs because you're not forgetting. You explain it. I'm gonna screw it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? I think it was just kind of just seeing my grandparents just be so work so hard and get so far to like where they got to. And I think that like rubbed off on me a lot because yeah, they went to these schools and you know they were promised this education, they never got it. And then, you know, like I remember yeah, my grandfather worked for a company that was actually owned by the company that I just quit back in May to be a full-time musician. And you know, he would just work as a maintenance man. And my mom, I just remember my mom telling me stories like, um, yeah, she went to like meet him at his work because she was finished school and she's gonna like drive home with him. And like one of the guys at the office just like spilling his cup and being like, "Oh, I'll get my native to clean it up," and then got like my grandfather to like clean it. You know what I mean? Like that's
Humiliating.
um, and so like yeah, cleaned it up. You know, his mindset is like, you know, I'm working this job, I'm providing for my family, I'm going to drive my daughter back home, like, you know, after like going to those schools and still like experiencing that kind of like racism and prejudice and like and to still just kind of still hold his head high and be proud and not, you know, like that sort of stuff. Like so yeah. Um, you know, he just kind of rose above certain things and yeah, and I think I owe a lot of who I am just by him and his character, you know?
It's in your blood.
Yeah.
I'm not making fun of you. So how did your grandfather feel like the first time he heard your songs? Like, and the lyrics, like it must have really, really touched him.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because yeah, he knew I was working on the record and stuff. And um so when I had some of the masters back and all of them, I went up to Thunder Bay and that's where he's living now. And I rented a car, I picked him up and I and we're driving around and I have the record playing the whole time. And I didn't tell him we were listening to the record. I just put it on. We were driving around chatting and stuff. And I think everyone's always kind of surprised that, like, when they talk to me and then they hear me sing, it's like a very voice is different, I guess. And so I guess even for my grandfather, it's the same thing, right? Because he didn't know that we were listening to the record until the very last song, because his voice is in it. And then we're listening and he's just like, huh, I'm on the radio. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been playing all the tracks. I've been playing the songs. And yeah, honestly, he's so proud. Yeah, I think he's always wanted to provide for his family. He's always wanted to, like, lift his family out of poverty and kind of and I think, yeah.
Under the circumstances, considering, where he came from and what happened to him, he did the best he could, and he did, and he raised his family, etc. And then here you are honoring him in your music, and that must feel really, nobody can ever take that away from you,
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, and his stories, like, I'm singing songs about his stories, so, like, his he had a big impact on me and my career too, to be completely honest. But yeah, this record was a lot more than just that too, I think. Yeah, like, my grandfather was a very strong person, but a very quiet person too, not the kind of person that kind of talk about things so personally like we did. So
that generation didn't, though. They did not. Right?
Oh, exactly. So, like, we both had some really big breakthroughs during that first year, and I think we did a lot of healing together and growing and all now. So I think that comes through in the record, hopefully.
Yeah, no, it does, though. I mean, you don't have to be indigenous to appreciate the music, like, right? It's playing on radio. I don't want to diss radio, but radio plays mostly pop and things that are, easy to digest, right?
Yeah. No,
Not,
definitely.
Not always anthems for the soul, right? It's more.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna wrap it up with, you're working on new music now?
Yep.
And is it a continuation of the stories, or are you going in a different direction?
Yeah, no, this one's a little more yeah, no, it's not a continuation. Yeah, you know what? I just kind of got out of a relationship, and so I'm kind of just writing about that. And you know what? Like, it's so many things attached to that too. Like, it's a pretty universal thing, and even though it's still heavy, it's still a lot more lighthearted than the record I just worked on, which was, I was, like, super happy to be able to make this record and make it the way I wanted to, but it was at the same time still pretty taxing, um, emotionally, and to kind of make that heavy of a record. So yeah, working on this album that's more focused on me, uh and kind of, yeah, just kind of sacrifices and stuff like that, like, life changes, like following your dreams, and kind of, like, things that are attached to that, and things you lose because of it. So yeah, there's still in the process of demoing a lot of the tracks, but I think hopefully by the end of April we'll have a new album recorded.
Oh, wow, already this April?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So that now you can tour with more songs.
Yeah, definitely.
When you come back to Montreal in the summer?
We're working on it, and hopefully an announcement will be made soon, because yeah, that's the only weekend we have open in August, because we're booked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us at Montreal Rocks, and I look forward to hearing the new music and seeing you perform here. And the album is called Watin, and you'll be performing at, is it Ber le Ritz in Montreal on the 20th of January?
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's really soon.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We were here in these fading memories, so we